Huge news to say it mildly, to put it mildly. Absolutely monster news if you haven't heard. I've actually made the comparison that this is almost like the Beatles announcing their breakup. It's that big. The empire of MrBeast has a ripple in it. Whether it's good or bad, let's talk about it. That's the whole purpose of the show. We are live, an emergency live stream, Creator Economy Live podcast live stream. Huge announcement from the biggest cast member, I believe, in my opinion. I think a lot of people would share this. The biggest cast member of the MrBeast brand and MrBeast videos, MrBeast content, the MrBeast empire, came out announcing that he has been taking HRT for several months. HRT is hormone replacement therapy. We're going to talk about this. I want to take your questions. This could be huge. This could be big. I created a video on TikTok that went viral. It almost has 500,000 views and counting. And I think it's important that we discuss this. So hang out. Let's do this. Come on back. I'm here to answer your questions. And maybe I'll bring a few of you on the live stream. Let's do this.
What would happen if I took a chance? It's always hard at first glance. I don't wanna, but I know I gotta do it. The truth is hard to swallow. I think I'll chew it.
Okay, guys. Welcome to the Creator Economy live stream podcast show. So I'm just going to jump right into it. And, I want to say really quickly, I'm live on TikTok as well. I'm not used to going live on TikTok. But I will be taking questions from TikTok as well. If you don't know what I'm talking about, if you have absolutely no clue what's happening, and I'll screen share so you can see the Twitter feed and the latest tweets from Chris Tyson, who is, to me, probably the most talented, if not the biggest integral part of the MrBeast brand. He's hit Jimmy's oldest friend out of the entire crew. I know Chandler's amazing. Carl is okay to me. My kids don't really like Carl either. Nolan's, yeah. I'm just my opinion. I think Chris is the most talented. He's the wittiest. He's the funniest, the most intelligent. I think he's the biggest. It's like if you want to make the comparison of the Beatles, Paul and John and Paul, it's Jimmy and Chris. That's the brand. That's why this is such a huge announcement. And I'd love to get your thoughts. I'd love to get your opinions. I'd love to get your comments and discuss this. Now, a few caveats. I know there's a lot of podcast listeners, replay viewers. Leave your comments. I'd love to hear from you, and I will take your comments. I will take your questions. I may even bring a few people up on the stream. I really want to make this as inclusive, as broad and inviting and real. You guys know me. I always want to have a real conversation, Nothing is scripted. This is completely live. Nothing is scripted. Nothing is planned out. Nothing is, I'm not trying to be calculating and premeditative or deliberate in any fashion. And I don't like to steer conversations into this way or that way. I'm not a fan of saying there has to be any, conversation for it to really have power and impact, for it to really be transformative, which is what every conversation should have, even if it's just to make you laugh. The naturalness, the realness of it is, to me, the biggest variable. And so I'm not trying to steer the conversation this way or that way, but I will ask for your assistance and make a request that maybe we don't make this too political, even though, I completely take accountability and responsibility if it goes that direction, because I'm putting myself out there, and any content creator that puts themselves out there needs to be open to all forms of responses. I'm open to it. I just don't really, it's not that type of show. But this is a huge bomb, huge announcement, huge news that happened very recently. And again, if you're just joining us and you have no idea what I'm talking about, one of the biggest, I would say the biggest cast member, the biggest member of the MrBeast empire. Remember, MrBeast is a brand. He's not just Jimmy Donaldson. MrBeast is a brand. MrBeast is an entity. This is an empire that garners millions of dollars a month in revenue, that garners 50 to 100 million views per video. Okay. He has over 100, 200, maybe 300 employees. He's got multiple business entities, Feastables, Mr. Beast Burger. The list goes on and on. I mean, there's so many more. I'm sure he has stakes in other YouTube channels. He has multiple 10 million subscribed and above YouTube channels, gaming channel. He has a MrBeast Reacts channel. He's got multi-language, MrBeast in Spanish, MrBeast in Russian. And they all have gold play buttons. So we're talking about an empire. We're not just talking about a kid sitting in his room making videos anymore. That's just not what's happening. So we're talking about an empire here. And so I created a video, my reaction to Chris coming out, and he's not, I have a tweet here. He's not saying that he's not saying that let me see if I can screen share this real fast. I want to be, I want to be precise, and I want to make sure that I'm not misquoting. But you can see here that what he's saying is I purposely have not come out as any identity. I just disclosed I was on hormones. I'm going to talk more in the future, but right now, any video claiming I identify as X is just speculation. So if you saw the thumbnail, okay, it's kind of hard not to notice a lot of physical changes. It's kind of hard not to notice a lot of changes, period. But I mean, I'm just talking physically. How does this affect the MrBeast brand? How does this affect MrBeast videos going forward? MrBeast has made the declaration time and time again that he is super obsessed. Super obsessed. Hey, Hero says it's sad about Chris. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know necessarily if it is sad about Chris. My reaction to this is, I'll just go ahead and say it since we're live. And of course, I'm about to sneeze because you guys know every time I go live, I sneeze. Me. I'm just interested in why you say that, Hero. Why do you say it's sad? We're live on TikTok too, podcast listeners, replay viewers, YouTube viewers, etc. I'm kind of curious why you would say that. Why do you say it's sad that what happened to him? I'd love to hear your thoughts. I mean, I want to have a real, honest conversation. My reaction is that this cannot help but change the MrBeast empire forever. Again, John and Paul, the Beatles, they were the Beatles. Yes, George was awesome. Ringo, I don't know. I mean, I know he's a great drummer, but I'm not sure if anybody I feel like could have been, well, maybe not anybody, but I think that the apex of the Beatles was John and Paul. I don't think there's much debate about that. Without John and Paul, you don't have, especially McCartney. McCartney is a genius. You wouldn't have the Beatles. Without Jimmy and Chris, I don't think you have MrBeast at all, especially without Jimmy, obviously. But Chris is that important. I think Chris is that much of a talent. I think Chris is that integral a part of the MrBeast empire. Again, I say empire because what we talk about here on the Creator Economy Livestream Podcast show is we talk about this beautiful era that we live in and how anybody can monetize their skills, creativity, and experience and actually earn a full-time living. Creating online, being a creator. It's never been better than right now. This is the greatest era to be alive. Hero VRR says, I can live without Chris. Interesting. Okay. I respect that. All opinions will be respected as long as we communicate them respectfully. I know this can be a pretty heated topic. I know that this can be a pretty big issue. And that's why I'm going live and talking about this. This is kind of an emergency live stream, a sort of it's just a huge announcement. It's a monster announcement. And I cannot imagine that even though Mr. Beast on Twitter has shown support, and I can't imagine that he would denounce or he would take any action against Chris in a negative way, i.e., terminating him. But I think that we would be naive. I think it would be remiss of me if I said that the brand and the business will not be forever altered, because it is. If you noticed or heard about the adoption of the transgender influencer Mulvaney, I forget his first name. Somebody tell me what's Mulvaney's first name? Is it Nick? I can't remember. Who Budweiser sponsored and attached as a sponsor of their brand. Kid Rock, okay, went viral on Twitter when he posted a video of him basically riddling a couple of cases of Bud Light with semi-automatic bullets. And he literally shot up a couple of cases and looked to the camera and said, "Screw you, Budweiser." I can't say what he actually said, but use your imagination. This is a family-friendly show, and we're advertiser-friendly. I'm a full-time content creator. I'm a professional. I'm not ashamed to admit I do not use any explicit language. Once in a blue moon, I'll drop it if it's necessary, but this is how I feed my family. I'm a professional content creator. I encourage you to follow. Thanks for the follow, Hero. I encourage you to follow. Yeah, Hero says, I do not hate Chris. I dislike him. That's a reasonable response to me. That's a total reasonable response. And so, there's no way Mr. Beast videos are ever going to be the same again because of what I just said with the Kid Rock example. This is such a divisive, this transgender kind of mainstream trending, I would say. We had the mass shooting that happened very recently that was done by a transgender, supposedly, at the private Christian school recently, which made really, really huge news. We have, all sorts of movements that are happening, LGBTQ plus and transgender movements. And there's now all this talk about kids and how do you identify, and do you identify as this or that? And it's right down the line. Okay. It's just as big of a divisive topic as abortion. It's just as divisive a topic about gun control. This country, the United States of America right now, I've never seen in my lifetime. I'm almost 50 years old. I know I act young and I look good, don't I? In my entire lifetime, I have never seen my beautiful, amazing country this fractured. It's fractured. And this isn't old man curmudgeon. This isn't like, what was I going to say? This isn't the cliche old man on the porch, saying, "Oh, things were great in my day." No. This is none of that. I'm basing this on indisputable facts that our country is fractured. This is a very, very divisive time, probably the most divisive time. I'm not going to get political. That's not the aim of this show. I'm not trying to fall this way or that way. I'm all about common sense and humanity. That's what I'm all about. But when you have all these employees, when you have the amount of influence that Mr. Beast has, the amount of people that he gives full-time livings for, the amount of people that depend their mortgage, depend on their kids' college payments, depend on their ability to get food, pay rent, and live, eat, sleep, and breathe, that he employs, that he has influence over, is massive. It's massive. Never mind the fact that, he himself has always been neutral on any kind of topic that is this fracturing and this divisive and this provocative. It's a provocative topic. Okay. And even though he hasn't come out, Chris Tyson has not come out and said, I am this identity, I'm that identity. He has made it very, very clear that he just tweeted about 4 hours ago. He just tweeted with a picture of him, I got to say, looking very effeminate, very effeminate. Not that there's anything wrong with that. He's looking very effeminate, though, just like in my thumbnail picture. It's never too late to start being yourself with 3 purple hearts. And then somebody responded, I'm confused as to what you ID as, but you do you. And that's where he says, this was literally only 7:27 a.m. today, April 7th, 2023. He said, I purposely have not come out as any identity. I just disclosed I was on hormones. I'm going to talk more about it in the future, but for right now, I am not identifying as anything. So I don't know what that means. He had a divorce with his wife. There's a lot of questions coming into play about him being this type of father, that type of father. But again, I want to focus on how does this impact the brand of MrBeast, the empire. Don't get it twisted. This is an empire. When you have captured the pop culture attention in such a magnificent way that MrBeast has, when you ensnare that many people's psychological focus, my kids watch MrBeast videos, okay? My dad, who's 79 years old, watches MrBeast videos. When you have a brand whose audience is that broad, and you want to talk about the viral framework, creating simple, fun, easy to understand content that is shareable, easily shareable, the content formula. If your audience can say this to a friend of theirs, dude, did you see that video where he ate that 200-foot pizza? Simple, easy to understand, straightforward, and the most important of all, shareable. Shareable content is what allows for MrBeast to create a $1 billion studio in North Carolina. MrBeast to employ hundreds, if not thousands of people. MrBeast to have multiple channels earning multiple 7 figures. This guy's making hundreds, if not more, millions of dollars a year. Sponsorships alone on MrBeast videos are in the multiple 6 figures. Hero says, I feel bad. If you have any questions, I'm live on TikTok, live on YouTube, live on Twitch, live on Facebook. If you have any questions, podcast listeners, replay viewers, let me know. Hit me up. Follow me here on TikTok. Subscribe here on the podcast and YouTube and Facebook. Follow me on Twitter, because if you're interested in learning how to earn more, grow faster, stress less, how to monetize your skills, creativity, and experience in the creator economy, this is your man. I eat, sleep, and breathe in the creator economy. I'm a full-time content creator with multiple channels, multiple brands, multiple businesses, and I've been doing this for a long time. I'm here to help. Why do you feel sorry for the kid? This is an interesting question. And I responded to this in one of the comments. I guess this gets into what's the definition of a father. Is the definition of a father purely based on gender? Is the definition of father purely based on some subjective masculine features and masculine definitions? Chris actually responded to this. And actually, I'm gonna read what Chris said, because somebody said, okay, check this out. Let me read what Chris said about this. Hero, if you're still here, stick around, because this could get interesting. So I'm sharing this right now. So Chris said, somebody responded, a verified account responded to Chris and said this. There goes a father figure the kid won't ever be able to look up to. That's pretty harsh. And another YouTuber tweeted out that he's never seen this much hate for another for a creator online. And this YouTuber had been a YouTuber since 2005, like 15, 20 years. And they said they've never seen this much hate towards somebody online on the internet ever. That's a pretty big statement. And this is a pretty big YouTuber. That's a pretty big YouTuber who said, I've never seen this much hate for a creator online. That's pretty interesting. That's pretty interesting stuff. So this verified account, Evan said, there goes a father figure the kid won't ever be able to look up to. Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. Sounds kind of like fortune cookie gibberish. That's a pretty harsh judgment. I mean, that's a pretty harsh judgment. There goes a father figure the kid will never look up to. How many people want to see what Chris said? How many people want to hear what Chris's response to that was? And this was yesterday, by the way. This was April 6th. So Chris's response to that, let me just get in a little bit closer. So Chris's response to that was, this is just more. Here's the picture, by the way, that I was talking about. Let me just show that real fast. So this is the tweet before I get into his response. 4 hours ago, today, April 7th, 2023, Chris posted this tweet and said, it's never too late to start being yourself. And, you know, he's on a boat. Looks like he might be in New York. I don't know where he is. And he's looking pretty effeminate, to put it mildly. I mean, he's looking very, very effeminate. If you saw my thumbnail again, it's kind of hard to deny that there's been some physical changes to this guy. He's been on HRT for about 2 to 3 months, if not more. So that was the tweet that I was talking about earlier. But this is his response. Again, Evan, this verified account, who I don't know who he is. He says he's an innovative problem solver, professional SHIT talker. Okay. I don't know how much you always got to consider the source. Evan says, there goes a father figure the kid won't ever be able to look up to. That's a pretty harsh, to put it, it's just really, really harsh to say that to somebody. And Chris's response, this is just more dog whistling that somehow trans and GNC folks. GNC is gender neutral. Somebody tell me what GNC means. I know my wife knows. This is just more dog whistling that somehow trans and GNC folks aren't safe around kids. Tucker, that's his kid, Chris's kid, Tucker. Tucker begs for me to come back when I leave for like 2 days to film. He is so loved and happy. Kids aren't born with hate. It's taught by people like you. And he's referring to Evan, this guy who said this. And my child will only know love. And then he further says, I know I'm going to be a great parent. And so is every other person who puts the love of their child before everything. I made this decision because I wanted to show up as my best and happiest self for him. In a way, this was for Tucker. That might be a little bit of a reach, but I get what he's trying to say. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. What are your thoughts and opinions on that? If you're still here, Hero, I'd love to hear what you think about that. I will say this. As a father of 2, my son is just turned 11, and my daughter is 9. And again, these guys, they are my litmus test. I mean, they are telling me where the creator economy is going better than any guru or somebody who claims to be an expert will ever know, because their attention and their habits of consuming content tell me more than anything. And right now, my kids only watch shorts. So if you're a content creator and you haven't been subscribed and following to me, I've been talking about short form content for literally 18 months. And proof is in the pudding. My video I posted on TikTok yesterday of me just walking my dog yesterday. And me just walking my dog and responding to Chris coming out has almost 500,000 views right now. Elongate Muskrat 2111 says, I just don't think Chris should go this route. He used to be so handsome. I don't think this is a vanity move. He's not doing this for vanity. And let me just kind of say a couple of things, because you guys bring up great points. I love your comments. I love the participation. Let me just say this. Kids, let me get back to my point. And I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear your responses to this. Kids are a lot more intelligent than we can ever give them credit for. The whole notion that kids need to be protected and kids need to be shielded from the reality of life and the realities of life begs to be questioned, begs to be, looked at in a number of different ways. There's not just one, it's not a black and white binary thing. It's not, there's a right answer and a wrong answer. It really depends on context. Context is everything. I talk to my kids about Chris coming out. And I will say this. Communication is the most powerful thing we as human beings have. It, to me, is the main thing that separates us from the beasts. No pun intended. Your ability to communicate effectively, your ability to communicate with power, with impact, without raising your voice, without anger, without emotionally upsetting yourself and others, is the most powerful weapon. The atomic bomb doesn't come close. There isn't a weapon on planet Earth that comes close to your ability to communicate. Communication can move oceans. It can transform galaxies. You can create rifts or you can create bridges with your communication skills. And all it takes is practice. All it takes is removing the ego, coming to the table of understanding, and not attempting to win, which most people in a conversation, in any type of endeavor, most people who have a conversation, whether it's a negotiation for a deal, a business deal, or just a conversation at a coffee shop with buddies, most people who are talking about sports or whatever, most people in their head, they're like, I want to win. If you come to a conversation with the true aim of any conversation, which should be to arrive at a truth, then it doesn't matter who wins. The best idea is the right idea. The best idea should merit coming to the forefront. And if you come to communication, you come to the conversation with the goal in mind of pursuing the truth, and it's not about competition, it's not about winning, you're going to find your life, your business, your personal, your professional life will be 1 billion times better than it ever could be. And so I had this conversation with my kids. I talked to them about Chris coming out. And you know what their response was? They were like, okay, cool, whatever. That was their response. That was literally their response. It wasn't like, oh my God, what do we do? Oh my God. It wasn't like they weren't traumatized. It wasn't. Kids are a lot smarter than you ever give them credit for. Kids are a lot more intelligent. They're a lot more resilient than you ever could give them credit for. They can handle things more than, in some cases, more readily and more smartly and intelligently than even adults can. And so, yes, Elongate says it's just simplicity. Absolutely. So the idea that, this has been used for everything, by the way, the argument of violent movies, music, rock concerts, Elvis Presley, shaking his hips. It's going to corrupt the youth. Godfather, crime, films, Tarantino films. It's going to corrupt the youth. Video games. It's going to corrupt the youth. I played every single video game you can imagine. I watched every horror movie you can imagine. I watched every violent movie that's ever been in existence. I am a successful father, husband, business owner, and I'm not impacted by things negatively. I'm not traumatized. I'm not out there doing weird, strange things, harming other people because I played a video game or I watched a movie. So this idea that it's all about the kids, that I think just needs to be looked at. in a different way. I think it needs to be approached conversationally in a different way. I like what Elongate says. They just see, oh, Chris is happy. Look. Yeah, I mean, it's like I remember being a kid. I think Chris has a really good point here. I mean, the fact that Chris has a really great point. Um, what he says here. Let me go back to his tweet. Hang on a second. I think Chris has a great point when he says that kids aren't born with hate. Kids are not born with distinction. This person is bad because their religious views are this way. This kid is not a person I should be around because of the color of their skin. This person is not somebody I should be around because of the choices that they made. I think that most, children are impressionable, and the first person that they trust, the first person that they look up to, is a parental figure. And if the parents are denigrating a race, a group of people, or anything with superficial judgment and superficial bigotry and things like that, then the kids are gonna pick up on that. Of course they are. But initially, a case in point, I remember vividly because I was, born in the U.S. I love my country. My parents are immigrants. They immigrated in the 70s, probably before most of you guys are born. And I remember, teachers. I grew up I was born in Utah, grew up in Evansville, Indiana. I now live in California. I remember being in middle school in Evansville, Indiana. I would have teachers say unbelievably hatred things towards me because of the way I looked. I was this dark skin, dark eyed, dude in the middle of milky white, country. And I remember the teachers, not just the students. I mean, kids, they're just kids, fourth graders, third graders, they're just kids. I actually remember the teachers actually saying awful things to me. And so, it's just really, really interesting. This idea that, kids are going to be traumatized and kids are not going to know what to do and kids are going to be befuddled. Kids are going to be confused. Communicate to them, inform them. They are smart. They are more resilient and smart than you ever will understand. They're a lot smarter than us in a lot of ways because they're not corrupt and they're not polluted with all these ideologies. Just a thought from a parent there. Okay. So I know there's some people who are trying to get on the live from TikTok. I'm also live on YouTube and I'm also live on Twitch and Facebook. So if you want to join the live on TikTok, I'll bring you up, but just give me some time to get through this. And I'll probably wrap this up pretty soon. This was a kind of impromptu live. This was something that was unplanned, unpremeditated. I'm completely being real, unscripted, raw, unfiltered. And Elongate says he's not even gay. He's just taking hormones and changing his style. He never said he was trans. Yeah, but when you take HRT, correct me if I'm wrong. I know he's not identifying as any specific gender, which I don't even, that's not even my specialty. I have no idea what that even means. But correct me if I'm wrong. If you're taking hormone replacement therapy, you are changing, you're transitioning your gender, correct? I mean, if I'm incorrect, please correct me. Again, this is not my specialty. The whole purpose of today's live and show is, as somebody who is a full-time content creator and eats, sleeps, and breathes in the creator economy, and I love helping creators. I love it with every fiber of my being. I love it more than anything. It gets my juice cooking like no other. We had to talk about this because this is like the Beatles breaking up. I mean, it's that big a news. It's absolutely gigantor, this news. And gigantor isn't even a word. This is huge news because I truly believe this changes MrBeast videos forever. I mean, as far as I know, there's no going back for Chris. There isn't like there's no rewind on HRT hormones, as far as I know. Can he go back to the way he was? I don't know. Maybe I don't know enough about this. I'm not a biologist or what have you. But as far as I know, it's he's going full steam ahead. He's tweeted that he's accepted this. He's tweeted that he's happy with this, and doesn't seem like it's a decision that Mr. Beast is worried about. Mr. Beast has come out and said, "I support you," but there's no way to deny that Mr. Beast videos have changed, and they will change for the entire future. His videos will never be the same again. This is an extremely, extremely hot topic, and there's a big, big divide. It's almost like Mr. Beast, this huge announcement has taken an axe to the audience that Mr. Beast was reaching, which is broad. I think there's going to be a lot of people who don't watch his videos anymore, sadly. He looks amazing. Yeah, he does. That corner kid. Yes, elongated. Are you sure? He wants to look more feminine. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if that's a fact. I don't want to state things that are not facts. But one thing's for sure is that he looks different, and he's accepted that. I mean, he's obviously, I mean, look at this thumbnail. If you're watching this on YouTube, I mean, it's obvious that he's gone through a transformation, that the hormones are working and they're changing things. It's very, very obvious that that's happening. But yeah, I just thought we would talk about it. Okay, this is really interesting because I don't understand this. Is Carl taking HRT as well? Hero says, and I've been hearing this too, Hero. I'd love for somebody to explain this to me because I don't know what this means. Hero says a lot of people have keep on saying the Carl effect. Yeah, so what is the Carl effect? I don't even know what that is. I'll just completely admit I have no I have no idea what that means. So I will completely accept ignorance. I'm ignorant to what that means. A lot of people keep on saying the Carl effect. What is the Carl effect? Tell me what the Carl effect is, because I don't know what that is. But I'd be curious to hear if you guys think that this is going to change the brand, change the image, change the impact, change the effect, change the business. Now, some people are DMing me, do you think that Mr. Beast is over? No, I mean, it's impossible. It's impossible that Mr. Beast is over. Absolutely impossible. No, there's definitely no chance in a million years that I think. I would be shocked. I would be shocked if something like that happened. I really highly, highly doubt that. But I will say this: I think that there's going to be at least 45 to 50% of his audience scratching their heads, and maybe even, dare I say, maybe even boycotting him. I really, truly believe that, and I have to think that Mr. Beast is thinking about that. You know, as much as he loves his best friend for life, I get that, but he's got employees, he's got an empire, he's got a business to run. Hey, Vasu on YouTube, good to see you. How are you, Vasu? Tap that thumbs up. Come on in. If someone and get close to you, you have the Carly's egg. Carl effect, I'm to say. I don't know what that means. Jax says, I feel bad. Is it bad for Mr. Beast? I would love to hear more on that. Why do you feel bad for Mr. Beast? And how we can put this in our context. As content creators who, you know, I always say, if you want to do this as a hobby, that's fantastic. There's nothing wrong doing it as a hobby. But I even think you should always treat your content business as a business. Treat it as a business, even if it's a hobby, because when you treat it like a business, that's how you grow. That's how you reach the people you want to reach. That's how you get the views. That's how you get the audience. That's how you get the impact. Everything is leveraged from audience. If you don't have an audience, you don't get AdSense revenue. If you don't have an audience, you don't get brand deals. If you don't have an audience, you don't get affiliate income. If you don't have an audience, you can't sell them products, digital, physical. If you don't have an audience, you can't create a membership program. All the different ways you can monetize in the creator economy. It's all about you. It's all about you, the audience. And essentially, I'm going to make a big, bold prediction here. I truly feel this announcement, if not 50%, somewhere close to that, I think it's going to separate and maybe even, dare I say, ostracize a good amount of viewers for the MrBeast brand. How that is going to impact his videos, how's that going to impact his brand, his businesses? Is he going to pull an Amazon, a Facebook, a YouTube, a Google, and have to lay off people? Who knows? I mean, everybody else is laying off people. Meta's laid off people. Amazon's laid off people. Oracle's laid off people. If Amazon is laying off people, which I think is the biggest company in the world next to Apple, I can't see how anybody else can. Why do you feel bad for MrBeast? I'm curious. Why do you feel bad for MrBeast? Jax913 says, I feel bad for MrBeast. I'm curious. Why do you say that? He has come out on Twitter, by the way, and said that he completely supports Chris, and it doesn't change anything, apparently. I mean, the fact that Chris is coming out now, you have to imagine, not only is Jimmy his best friend of all time, but Jimmy's also his boss. So this is how he pays his bills. He's made no bones about that. But you would have to imagine that Chris has told Jimmy about this long before he came out publicly on Twitter about it or announced it publicly anywhere. Now everybody's talking about it. There's tons of articles written about this. Jax M says, because of what Chris has become, I hope Chris gets better soon from his mental disability. Well, Jax, I hate to break it to you, but I think a lot of people don't consider this a mental disability. I think a lot of people consider this a decision that they need to make for their life that is true to who they are. And this is what I say. I say, if he's not breaking any laws, he's not harming anybody, it's none of my business what he does. Now, if I'm Jimmy, if I'm MrBeast, it matters greatly what he does. And I don't know what type, I have to imagine there's some type of contractual obligation or contractual disclosure or non-disclosure or some type of legal binding contract that states these are like cast members. It's like the Friends cast. Okay. It's like, you have Ross, Rachel, and Phoebe. You have Chandler, Joey, and Ross. It's like if Ross came out and said, I'm going to be, I'm going to go from Ross to, Rowena or whatever. I'd have to say that lawyers are going to get involved. Attorneys are going to get involved. You can't just change your face and likeness, your image and likeness, right? Like that, because MrBeast is an empire. It's not just a channel. It's not just a YouTube channel. This is an empire that employs people, that pays people, that has a massive amount of influence. We're talking millions, tens of millions, sometimes hundreds of millions of views per piece of content, which in turn turns into massive revenue, massive dollars. Okay. I mean, just a million viewed video gets, somewhere between, depending on CPM and RPMs, gets between $10,000 to $50,000. Imagine a video every time you put out gets an average of 50 to 60 million. Even if his RPM is as low as $2, he's making tons of money per video. He's employing. Do people really understand how much MrBeast makes? Do people even understand how much MrBeast charges for sponsorships? Think about this. Super Bowl advertisers pay $7 million for sometimes $10 million for a 30 to 60 second ad on the Super Bowl. MrBeast gets 10 times the views on almost every video that Super Bowl, the biggest event in really our culture, gets. So if advertisers are paying the Super Bowl TV rights $7 to $10 million for a 30 to 60 second ad, how much do you think MrBeast is charging for sponsorships? That's just one revenue source. We're not even talking AdSense. We're not even talking the kind of money he gets from the actual platform, from the actual, from Facebook, from TikTok, from Instagram, from Snapchat, from YouTube, which is probably the largest amount of money he makes through ads. This is an empire. Don't get it twisted. This is a massive, massive empire. Okay. And there's no way that I think, okay, even though Jimmy's come out and supported him, Jimmy's come out and said, I love you, Chris, et cetera, et cetera. Excuse me. There's no way in a million years he's just sitting back and going like, oh, no sweat, whatever. It begs the question, though, doesn't it? It begs the question. Do you stick to your values and principles? Do you stick to what you believe is the right thing to do? It's complicated. The right thing to do sometimes is not the right thing to do, because when you're responsible for people's lives and livelihoods, it can get a little tricky, and that's what I mean by that. Yeah, the principles and values are amazing and they're important, but at the same time, for example, if I'm, let's say, IBM, and I'm the CEO of IBM, which I'm not, I'm not empathizing with anybody. This is just a complete fact. This is a neutral fact. This is business 101. I have a responsibility and obligation as the CEO of IBM. I have a responsibility and obligation to the shareholders. Okay. And if I have to cut costs in order for our business to effectively proceed forward into the next quarter, et cetera, et cetera, I may have to lay off my friends. I may have to lay off an entire division. Why? Because my job is I have an obligation to my shareholders. I have an obligation to the board. I have an obligation to the company. Most importantly, the shareholders. And I need to do what I need to do. Now, the right thing to do sometimes isn't the right thing to do, is what I mean by that. You may have to lay off your best friend and understand the fact that your best friend might not make his mortgage payment next month, which could lead to all sorts of other problems. Hero says, Chris is probably just going to have a longer break. Interesting. How long of a break has he had so far? He just tweeted that they're working on a new Reacts video. So I wonder if he's back. So to kind of just wrap this up and just really put some context on this. So, decisions, announcements, personal choices have impact, have consequences. As a brand, as a business owner, and this has happened, there's multiple examples of people having to part ways and having to refine and lean up their systems, processes, their payroll, et cetera, et cetera. It's really, really important to have these kind of conversations with your partners, with your affiliates, with your employees, with whoever you're conducting business with, because their choices have an impact on your brand, and your choices have an impact on their brand and their business. And so the thing that I would just like to wrap up here, and again, I want to throw the question out to you guys and let me know. TikTok, don't go anywhere. I'm going to come back, and if you want to come up on the show and you want to come up on the TikTok, I'm going to invite a few of you on to come talk to me, because I'm really interested in keeping this conversation going. But for the podcast here, I want to put the question to you. What do you think? What are your thoughts? Where do you stand on this? The title of this show is, let me put on my glasses because I'm old and I can't see. The title of this show is MrBeast Videos Will Never Be the Same Again. Reaction to Chris coming out. Chris is Paul to MrBeast John. Chris and Jimmy, MrBeast and Chris Tyson, are the top two guys. They're the top Beatles. Okay. When one of them makes a decision this impactful that basically takes an axe to half of your audience and ostracizes them. We saw what happened with Kid Rock. We saw what happened with Mulvaney and Budweiser. Okay. There is a huge boycott on Budweiser now. I wonder what's going to happen with MrBeast brand. It's interesting. This just happened. I mean, this literally just happened. This announcement just happened. Okay. It's very, very recent breaking news. I want to hear from you. What do you guys think? Do you guys think this will impact the brand in a negative way, positive way, neutral way? I would love to hear from you. I respond to all the comments. Personally, I love you, every single one of you. TikTok, stick around. And the rest of you, I'll see you guys very, very soon. Love you.